Hello guys, welcome to the third video in this series. What we're going to be doing today is very interesting, and we're going to learn how to actually use Jenkins to build a pipeline for one of my projects. It's a Node.js project, and this will be very interesting because we're going to learn how to check out code from GitHub, build this project and generate like SSH keys and actually get into CI/CD using Jenkins. It's gonna be one of these projects on my GitHub. I've already set up the repositories. We're gonna be utilizing two services, the client and the server-side service. So whatever we do for one project, we're gonna do for the other. But for this video, I'm just gonna use one, and you can replicate the steps for the other project. The first thing we want to do is log into our server and install Node on that server. That's our Linux machine. So we're gonna connect to it. Hopefully you guys remembered how I did this. So we have to cd into the directory where our key pair is, and we're gonna put this command in there. Nope, not Amazon. And I'm just gonna type yes. And just like that, I am in my server. As you can see, there's nothing in there. I'm connected now. So the next thing I want to do is install Node in this server, because that's Node is going to build our project. I already have a repository where I install stuff. I'll just go to that link. So we're going to be installing Node. You can go to this GitHub link. I'll put up the link in the description in this video, so you can just do it. Yes, this is the first. I think this is installing Node for Ubuntu. Yeah, this is the first command. And if we check for Node, it shouldn't be there. You see, we're gonna do Node. Let's say version 16. I think that's the most stable version so far. I'll do 16. Then I'll copy this command, and then click OK, enter. So if we check the Node version now, we should see that Node is installed. And then the next thing I want to do is install Jacoco plugin on my Jenkins UI. So Jacoco is a utility tool that we can use to check our code coverage. And code coverage is simply like how much of the code in our pipeline has been executed or tested or missed. So Jacoco gives us like a breakdown of how our code is like covered in the pipeline. I don't know why I was logged out here. Oh, because I installed Node. So to install stuff on Jenkins, you just go to manage Jenkins, and you go to plugins. Sorry guys, this is being really slow. And we'll go to available plugins, and we'll just search up Jacoco. Yes, Jacoco right there. Install. So that is done. So now at this point, we are actually ready to start building our pipeline by checking out code from GitHub. But for me to clone from GitHub, I want to use SSH keys. So what I want to do is generate SSH keys on my Linux machine and upload them to GitHub. So this is the command here, and all these commands and the steps for everything I talk about in this video is on my Medium page. So I'm going to put a link to my publications, and you can just follow the steps. Just hit enter like 4 times. So yes, so if we go to so now we've generated our keys. We want to actually copy those keys and upload them to our GitHub. So we can just do this. And this will give us the public key. And if we just hit enter, we can copy the entirety of the key, the whole thing. Please don't miss anything or it's not going to work. So when you copy, you can go to your GitHub, go to your actual account settings, go to SSH and GPG keys, and I can just add a new key. I'm going to call it Jenkins 1. And just leave this as authentication key and add SSH key. It's going to ask for like some kind of confirmation, and there you have it, it's added. We can also use the HTTP way to clone, but SSH keys are actually secure, more secure. That's why I always upload the keys and use that method. So now I can go back to my repositories, and now I'm actually ready to clone. But what you want to do in your case is make a fork of my repository and then clone your fork. So just right here, click fork, and then when you create a fork, you're gonna have your own copy of my repository on GitHub, and then you can clone your fork. That is how different it is from cloning. If you just clone my repo, it's gonna give you the copy on your local machine, but you might not have write access to it. So what you want to do is actually fork and then clone. Go here and copy this command, and I'm just going to clone it. So just git clone and paste. So hit yes. So now if I go ls, I can see that that project is in my server right now. So the purpose of Jenkins is to pick up this project from our server and run the test, build, deployment. We can do that stuff manually, but that defeats the purpose of having CI/CD. We want Jenkins to actually use the server to run everything. So now if I go to my project, just to show you something, I'm in my project now, I have Node installed. I can run npm install. Npm is just the package manager for Node, and it's going to download all the binaries and dependencies I need for this project, and I can actually run it manually on my shell. But what Jenkins does is that it takes this project and it automates it in a pipeline. Instead of me writing these commands, I write it in a script on Jenkins, and it runs that script and it does the whole thing. So now if I type in nodemon server.js, which is just the command to start my server, I can see that my Linux machine is running this server on port 4000. So that means if I go to port 4000 on my Linux machine, I should see this, right? So I'll just do that right here. I can copy this, go to a new tab. Oh, it's right there. But it's not going to work because we haven't opened port 4000 to work in the inbound rules on our EC2. So we have to go back to AWS, go to inbound rules, edit inbound rules, add a role. We're going to open port 4000 because that's the port that my server is running on, but that's the project server. And source info will just make this 00, and we're going to save rules. Now we've added that. If we go back here and enter, we see that it works. This is what it's supposed to show. This is just the endpoint for my projects. So you see that whatever ports you want to use on your machine, you have to open it in your AWS account. So this is just a link to the front end. But yeah, that was just a little aside to show you guys how the server works. Like you have to open whatever ports you really want to use. So now we are ready to actually start writing the code for our pipeline. So what we have to do now is just go to new item, and we're going to give it a name, and this is in Jenkins now. Let's call it pipeline, server pipeline job, server pipeline job, and it's gonna be a pipeline. So okay, and we're gonna say, for now, let's just start writing the code. So this is actually how you build a pipeline. The first one will be pipeline, and it's gonna be in curly, you're gonna make curly braces like that, and you're gonna say agents any. This is Jenkins just saying that you should use any build agent you have to run the CI/CD for this project. Like, you don't want to commit it to a specific machine, that any server can build this project. And after that, we're gonna say stages, and we're gonna say stage. This is how you do it. And within the stage block, you write, no, here the stage, actually you put what stage it should be. So the first one will be checkout, right? Because the first thing we want to do is check out from GitHub, and then steps within the stage block. So you see how it goes. You write your pipeline keyword, then after stages, and then after that stage, then that's where you give the name for the stage you're working on, and then steps. Then within the steps, then here we're checking out, we have to generate a syntax to check out. So what we can do is use this little trick down here. It's called pipeline syntax, and go to sample steps, and you say check out from version control, and of course it's git. Then you put the URL of what the repository from GitHub you want to check out from. So we're checking out this one right here, this pipeline job post board server. You just copy and go back there, you paste it. Credentials, you can leave it as none. And what branch are we checking out from? So it's the main branch. That is really important. You change this to main and generate pipeline script. So you copy this and you put it here, and that is it. That is the first step down. The second step will be utilizing Jacoco for our code coverage. So like, again, the first stage was checkout, then the second stage will be code coverage. And this is very like customizable. You can put whatever stages you want to do. You can take out stages you don't want to run on your CI/CD. So the second one will be code coverage. And within the stage block, we're going to put steps. And what step we want to do is Jacoco, and you have to invoke it. So that is it right there. We can apply and save, and then let us manually build it. So you can see here that they were both successful. So we successfully checked out from GitHub, and we did our code coverage. If you go to the, if you click on each build you do, you can go to console output, and you see the log of each stage and how it built. So you can see that the first thing it did was, it was running on Jenkins, which is this machine, and started by me manually, and it checked out from GitHub, this URL, and that was the first stage. And the second stage was the Jacoco code coverage, and it successfully finished the job. So let me show you guys a better way to check out. So you don't have to write the script for the pipeline on the Jenkins UI. In fact, there's a better practice, which is to write the script on GitHub and let Jenkins read the pipeline from GitHub. And we're going to execute this by making a Jenkins file on GitHub. So what we can actually do is we can clear this part out that we generated using the pipeline syntax, and then we can copy this. We're going to use this to create our Jenkins file. So actually we can cut it, and then we're going to do pipeline script from SCM, and you put your repo there and you change your branch if you need to, and the script path should be Jenkins file, just like this. So we're going to apply and save, and then we go to our GitHub, and we're going to add a file. We're going to create a file called Jenkins file. Create a file called Jenkins file. And then here we're just going to paste the whole thing. I think this needs some braces here. Right. And then commit changes. And then if we go back to, let's go to configure just so you see the whole setup before I run it. Yes, that looks correct. And then we can just build. So you see the 4 build just finished and they were all successful. Checkouts and code coverage. So this is not actually picking it up from the Jenkins UI like I said. It's going to GitHub, running the Jenkins file, and then it's executing the pipeline that way. So one of the last things I want to talk about is how to trigger a Jenkins job, because it's not practical to always hit build now and manually run your pipeline. That defeats the purpose of CI/CD. So there's so many ways to trigger a job with Jenkins. You can do it through scripts, like maybe on Slack. You can make a command on Slack that triggers your job. You can even trigger a job based on time intervals, maybe every 30 minutes to an hour. You can trigger a job based on one other job running. Like if you run this job, then it triggers another job. But the most practical one is actually triggering a job whenever there is a code commit on your GitHub or whatever source code management you're using. And I'm going to show you how to do this. So you just go to configure again. And all you got to do is just click this checkbox here that says GitHub hook trigger. And yeah, you should be good to go. Apply and save. And we're going to need the URL of our Jenkins server. So we're just going to copy here up to 8080. Yeah. And we're going to go to, okay, I'll show you how I got here. We're going to go to the GitHub repo and go to the settings and go to webhooks. And we're going to add a webhook. Let us clean this out and paste in what we just copied. And we're going to put GitHub-webhook at the end. Just like that. And this should be application/JSON. And we're going to add a webhook. We can actually click on it and go to recent deliveries. You can see that it actually was successful, but we can, if you don't trust it, you can redeliver the payload. So this is the new one I just requested for now. If you click on it, you can see the response is 200, which means that it was successful. So so now whenever I make a commit on GitHub, my pipeline is going to execute automatically. So let us actually do something now. We go to code and let us put the last step in our pipeline for now. We're going to make a build step. So let's edit right here. Like I said before, we're going to make a stage and it's going to be build. That is one thing about writing code right on GitHub. It doesn't like make pairs of parentheses. You have to remember to put the other part. And build. And what I want to do is I'm just going to say npm install. So you guys remember this command when I run it on my server manually right here on my shell. Right now I'm putting the command on Jenkins. So Jenkins is going to run this on the server, which is the purpose of writing the CI/CD pipeline. Oh, sorry, I forgot my steps block right there. So steps. Yeah, just like that. So when I commit changes, if I go back to Jenkins, you see it started automatically by itself. And it doesn't have to be on the Jenkins file. It could be whatever file on your project is going to start the execution of the pipeline. So you see the step I just added, build. And if you go to the output of the console, that's the logs, you can see up here that started by a GitHub push by me, as opposed to started by manually. It's going to tell you how the job started and everything. And you see npm install, which is the command I put, and it successfully built the package. So that is how it works, guys. And just to show you that it doesn't have to be on the Jenkins file, I can go to another file of my projects. You can see we're on the 5th build here. If I go to this file, I'm just gonna like literally just add a space. If I commit changes, if I go back here, it's gonna start the number 6 up here. It might take a few seconds, but it's gonna start. You see right there. So that is a very useful trick to know in Jenkins, which is the whole point of CI/CD. So in the next video, we are going to talk about tests using SonarQube. SonarQube is just static code analysis. It's a very cool thing to do. It goes into all your source code and it tells you about code smells and bugs and things like that. And it works for almost every language out there, like programming languages. It supports, I think, 19 languages. So that's a very cool step to implement in your pipeline. So that is it for today, guys. Today we talked about like forking and cloning from GitHub, Jackal, uploading SSH keys, and writing the initial steps of the pipeline. To the next video, we're gonna take it further by writing like steps for testing, and maybe in subsequent videos after that, we're gonna talk about Docker and Kubernetes. Thank you, guys. See you guys in the next video.